Hi, I'm Stu, and this is how to make a time-lapse on a budget. Now maybe you've seen those videos on YouTube, you know, the ones with clouds scooting across the sky, or some plant growing up rapidly, or perhaps a building that took a couple of years to construct being built over, just a few seconds. And you may have thought, I could do that. The trouble is that most of those videos are shot with equipment like this and like this. DSLR camera timer, big, powerful, but expensive. But you don't have to start out with that kind of equipment. You can start out with something much cheaper and simpler. Something like this and this. Now what have I got here? A standard USB webcam. In this case, it's the catchily named Cyber CY2707WC. If you have a computer with a webcam built into the frame, you could even use that. However, you'll have to point your whole entire computer in the right direction, which won't be very convenient. A really old laptop. This little baby is a state-of-the-art Acer Inspire 3000, which runs on Windows XP. So there's no more internet for this old lady. You can basically use any old PC as long as it is capable of running VLC Media Player. It's a commonly used media player app, open source and free to download. If it's not on your computer, you should be able to find it somewhere on the internet. And if you've never heard of it, what cave have you been hiding in? Now just a couple of notes at this point. Obviously the image quality you get from something like that is not going to be anywhere near as good as the quality you get from something like that. I mean, just look at the lens on this thing. So you're going to have to compose your shots with a bit more care. But you can learn a lot by using something as simple as this and find out if you enjoy it, and if you do, progress onto equipment like this, knowing that you can justify the expense of it. And the second note is these instructions won't work on a Mac. They'll only work on a PC. I'm sure it's possible to do it on a Mac. I just don't know what the commands are to achieve this. Right, let's get on with it. Obviously, step one, plug your USB camera into your computer. And step two, turn your computer on. Step 3, run VLC Media Player. Step 4, use VLC to find camera name, check it's working, and to compose your shot. Now what you want to do this is, under the menu Media, there's Open Capture Device. Within this window, make sure that Capture Mode is set to Direct Show. Click on the drop down for video device name and just pick the most likely candidate. You can change it if it doesn't work. Wait! You need to keep a record of that camera name because you'll need to use it later. For audio, select None. Video size, put in 640 by 480. We're not actually going to record at this level, we're just using it for a viewfinder. Then click Play. If it's all working, you should get a picture from the camera. See, there I am. Now that you have your viewfinder, it's a good time to line up your shot. So let's see what that looks like. Yep, as I expected, overexposed and out of focus. You'll probably find your webcam footage looks something like mine did, because the truth is these aren't set up to normally take this kind of shot. These webcams are set up to film somebody sitting in front of their computer under artificial light, so you're going to have to go into your settings and tweak it a bit. This camera, it actually has an indoor or outdoor setting which can be changed, and it also, for some odd reason, has a manual focus ring. But you'll probably find if you go into the settings for your camera, you can adjust it for outdoor exposure and to be focused at infinity, and you'll have to do that. After you've finished composing your shot and you've got all your settings for your camera correct, close VLC Media Player. Don't worry, we'll come back to it soon. Okay, step 5. Create a folder where you're going to store the time-lapse shots. Right, now step 6. Open a command prompt window. Now in my case that's really easy because I have an icon on my desktop here that I can just double click on to open it. But if you need to find yours, it'll usually be under Start, Programs, Accessories. In my case, there it is. It'll usually be there in Windows XP, and Windows 7. On Windows 10, you'll need to press the Windows button, hold it down and then press X. It will bring you up a special system menu which includes the option Command Prompt, and you'll need to select that. Right, now I've got to be honest here, things are going to get a little bit more complicated, especially if you've never used a command line interface before. So you might want to look up a tutorial on how to do that before coming back to this. Step 7. Find if your command line knows where VLC is. To do this, you just type VLC and press enter. If the VLC application starts, then that means your command line knows where VLC is, and anytime you want to run VLC, you can just type VLC in the command line. If it doesn't run, if you get this error message, then what you need to do is you need to find where VLC is. To do that, you'll need to right click on the VLC icon, either if you have it on your desktop or in your menu, and you'll have to get properties and find out where it is. There's its location right there, highlighted in the target box. Right, now we finally get to start that time-lapse recording. Right, so all of this is the command that you have to run to get VLC to do your time-lapse. Now the first bit you've got to do is obviously the command that you're running and where it is on your hard drive. So in my case, it's on the C drive in the program files folder, and within that folder a folder called VideoLAN, and within that folder a folder called VLC, and then the program is vlc.exe. So I need to give it all of that. If you found that your command line interface knows where VLC is and is able to run it directly, you could just put VLC and replace all of that. Then the next thing you've got to do is you've got to tell the program how to run. So then we start having these things called arguments. They all start with a minus sign. The first one you've got right over here is --dshow-vdev, and then an equal sign, and then the camera name. That's over there, sorry. That is telling VLC what video camera to use. So where it says camera name in the example, you have to put in the name of your camera that I told you to remember earlier. The next thing you've got is this dshow-size. So that's --dshow-size equals, and then you put the resolution that you want the camera to use. Now, I said before you can pretty much try different resolutions. 640 by 480 will work on just about every webcam, but of course it's a pretty low quality picture. I find that what works quite well with a lot of them is 1280 by 960, which is just twice the width and twice the height. So you might find that works. If not, you could delve into your camera settings a bit more and find which definitions actually work for you. The next bit is --video-filter equals scene. That's just basically telling VLC what you want it to do inside the direct show module. The next bit, --no-audio. That is just telling VLC that it's not going to record any sound at all. The next bit is the scene path. --scene path equals folder to store files. Obviously, you're not going to just write folder to store files like I have. You're going to put the name of the folder and the location, all of that one thing like the other stuff. You're going to put the folder that you created to store all these pictures in. If the folder name has any spaces, by the way, you've got to surround it by double quotes. And it's the same with the camera name that you entered earlier, which was, I think, was it up here? If there's any spaces in the camera name, then you have to put double quotes around either end of it, because the moment it hits a space, it then means that's the end of that argument and it goes on to the next one. Now, where were we? We're just given it the scene path. The next thing we have to do is scene format equals JPEG. That's just telling VLC that what we want to be recording is JPEG files. That's just telling them what format we're saving it in. Then you've got scene-prefix equals snap. That is just basically saying what to name the files. So all the files are going to start with the word snap and then a number. So that's just like what it says, scene-prefix. So that is the start of the name of each file that we're saving. Then you've got scene ratio, and although it's sort of split from one side to the other, it actually says scene ratio equals 100, with that dash on the front of it, like with everything. Now what that means is I only want it to take every 100th frame. Now where I live, video is transmitted at 25 frames per second. So when I say scene ratio equals 100, what I'm saying is I only want one shot every 4 seconds, which is one shot every 100 frames. So if you're in a country that works in 30 frames a second, you'll just have to work on that basis. That's no problem. And then once you've done all of that, we've given it all the information that we need. Now we have to tell VLC what we want it to do. And what we want it to do is run dshow. So we have double quotes, dshow / and then the close quotes. That is saying that once VLC opens, it's going to run the direct show module. And then after that, we have VLC / quit. That's just telling it so that once the direct show module is finished, it should quit immediately afterwards, which will end this whole big command. Once you've typed all of that in, exactly as I've got up here, but where I've got camera name, you put your camera name, and where I've got folder to store files, you put your folder that you're storing the files in. Once you've given it all of that with spaces in between each argument, and wherever you've got a space within the argument, like a camera name, you put double quotes around it. Once you've done all of that, press the enter key, and that should start your time lapse. You'll see VLC will open and it will immediately show a picture. When you want your time lapse to stop, just close VLC and that'll be it. It'll stop recording. Right, let's see the results. Right, what we can do is we can preview the clip that we've made in VLC Media Player. We can't actually edit it together in VLC Media Player, but we do have the facility to preview it. So I've opened VLC Media Player. Now the next thing I need to do is go to the Tools menu, select Preferences. Make sure that Show Settings is on All, then go to Input / Codecs. Go down to Demuxer, and go into Image. Now on this page there is a duration in seconds. We need to change that to 0.04. Basically what that decides is when we load a still frame image into VLC Media Player, how long it is displayed for before it goes to the next file. Because we're working at 25 frames per second, each frame lasts for 0.04 seconds. Now I'm going to load in, I'm going to go to Open Multiple Files, Add, and I'm going to go to the folder that was the time-lapse folder on the desktop. And there it is, time-lapse. And I'm going to tell it to load all of those photos. Right, so now I click play. If your preview looks good, you can use another bit of free software to create your actual clip. We're going to use Windows Movie Maker because it's freely available on any PC. I'm not actually using that old laptop for this. I've gone back to my desktop because it's a bit more recent. And I've transferred the files across using a flash drive. To get your files into Windows Movie Maker, have the window open of the folder that has all the files in it. Click on the last one, then scroll up to the top of the list and hold down Shift and press the first one. Then drag and drop those into Windows Movie Maker. If you do it from last to first like this, they should come through in the right order. Now, while they're all still highlighted on the timeline, there's a new menu up the top, Video Tools. Click Edit under that. There's a duration there. Like with before, we're going to put 0.04. That tells it that each file we brought in should be displayed for 0.04 of a second, so we should get 25 frames a second. You'll notice that the time of your clip will now change to a much smaller time. That indicates it's working. Once you've completed your edit in Windows Movie Maker, feel free to export it as any kind of video that you'd like. Let's have a look at the final results. Here's the results from one of my test runs. It's come out a little bit overly pixelated, but if you use a more recent laptop than I did, I'm sure you'll get much better results. And there you have it. That's how you make a time-lapse recording with nothing more complicated than an old computer with some free software and a webcam. I'll keep trying to do a better and better job, and if I get some really good results, I'll post them online. Until then, have fun and keep experimenting.